Most people step onto a cruise ship thinking everything will work just like a hotel, but it doesn't. Small things behave very differently on board, and passengers usually discover them the hard way. After digging through cruise forums, passenger reports, and real travel experiences, I found 50 cruise secrets most passengers only learn after their trip has already started. Some of these will save you money. Some will help you avoid common cruise mistakes, and a few can make your entire cruise far smoother from day one. For example, one booking mistake leaves passengers waking up to chairs scraping above their ceiling every morning. Another causes people to spend hundreds of dollars on drink packages they barely use. And later in the video, I'll show you a simple carry-on trick experienced cruisers use that makes embarkation day dramatically easier. But one of the first little surprises many passengers notice happens right at their cabin door. 50. Cruise cabin doors slam harder. Cruise cabin doors are much heavier than normal hotel doors. They're designed to automatically close and seal for fire safety. That's why they often slam loudly if you let them shut on their own. Experienced cruisers gently hold the door until it closes quietly. It sounds simple, but after a few nights, you'll understand why people do this, because quiet hallways matter on a ship where thousands of people are sleeping close together. But the first surprise many passengers notice actually happens before they even reach their cabin. 49. The quiet elevators trick. Most passengers use the first elevator they see. That's usually the busiest one. Elevators near the atrium or main staircases attract the largest crowds, but elevators farther down the hallway are often much quieter. Experienced cruisers simply walk another 20 seconds and avoid long lines completely. It's a tiny trick that saves a surprising amount of time during the cruise. Now here's something interesting about the small card you carry everywhere on the ship. 48. Your cruise card tracks everything. Your cruise card is your room key, wallet, and ID all in one. Every purchase, drink order, restaurant visit, and port re-entry gets recorded through that card. It helps the ship manage thousands of passengers moving around every day. That's why experienced cruisers treat their card carefully and never leave it unattended near pools or bars. Replacing it isn't difficult, but it does require a visit to guest services. And speaking of things that surprise first-time cruisers, the next one often happens late at night. 47. Balcony doors sometimes whistle. If your cabin has a balcony, you might hear a soft whistling sound during the night. This happens when wind flows along the side of the ship. Air pressure changes can create vibrations around balcony doors. Most of the time, it only happens when the ship changes direction or wind speeds increase. Once passengers understand what the sound is, it stops feeling mysterious. But here's something that catches even more people off guard. Cabins under the pool deck wake early. Cabins directly below the pool deck sometimes hear early morning noise. Crew members begin cleaning and preparing the area before passengers arrive. Moving chairs and equipment can create light scraping sounds above the ceiling. Experienced cruisers always check the deck plan before booking a cabin. Knowing what's above and below your room makes a big difference. But cabins are only part of the cruise experience. The next few secrets reveal how the ship's daily routines really work. Here's something many passengers notice around day 2. The ship suddenly feels less crowded. Buffet lines shrink, elevators move faster. That's because experienced cruisers follow different routines than first-time passengers, and the next secrets explain exactly how they do it. 45. Check your onboard bill daily. Every purchase on the ship goes to your onboard account. Most charges are correct, but mistakes can occasionally happen. Reviewing your account daily in the cruise app or on the cabin TV helps catch issues early. Fixing a charge mid-cruise usually takes minutes. Waiting until the final night when hundreds of passengers line up at guest services can take much longer. And if you enjoy cruise tips like these, consider subscribing. We share cruise travel strategies every week. Now, here's another spending trap many passengers notice too late. Minibar charges happen easily. Some cruise minibars use sensors. Even moving an item inside the fridge can sometimes register as a purchase. Experienced cruisers often ask their cabin steward to empty the minibar on the first day. That way there's no confusion later, because disputing minibar charges at the end of the cruise can take time. But minibar charges aren't the only thing that quietly increases spending. 43. Cruise photos are expensive. Cruise photographers appear everywhere. Dinner photos, port photos, embarkation photos, formal night photos. Single prints often cost $20 to $40 or more. Many passengers only realize this after browsing the gallery. Experienced cruisers enjoy the photos, but only buy the ones they truly want, because those small purchases can add up quickly. But the next spending trap doesn't involve photos at all. 42. Souvenir shops use vacation psychology. Cruise shops often advertise tax-free shopping, but tax-free doesn't always mean cheaper. Vacation excitement can make purchases feel more appealing than they would at home. Experienced cruisers often compare prices online before buying luxury items. Sometimes the deal is good. Sometimes it isn't, but taking a moment to check avoids impulse purchases. Now let's talk about food, because buffet timing changes everything. Most passengers visit the buffet at the same times, breakfast around 8, lunch around noon. That's when lines become longest. Experienced cruisers simply shift their schedule by 30 minutes. Earlier or later visits often feel completely different. Shorter lines, better seating, fresh food. But buffet crowds are nothing compared to what happens during embarkation lunch. Embarkation Day creates some of the busiest moments on the entire cruise. Thousands of passengers board within a few hours, and almost everyone heads to the same places first. But experienced cruisers take a very different approach. The first buffet lunch is usually the most crowded meal of the cruise. Tables are hard to find, and lines stretch across the room. Experienced cruisers visit smaller venues instead. Pizza stations, cafes, and alternative restaurants are often much quieter. That simple choice turns the first meal from chaotic to relaxing. And speaking of Embarkation Day, there's something else passengers often misunderstand. Cabins aren't ready immediately. One thing that surprises many first-time cruisers happens right after boarding. They walk onto the ship, head toward their cabin, and find the hallway doors closed. That's because most cabins aren't ready right away. Crew members are still finishing cleaning and preparing thousands of rooms at the same time. Cabins usually open a few hours after boarding begins. Experienced cruisers expect this. That's why they pack a small carry-on with essentials like swimwear, sunscreen, medications, and valuables. That way, they can enjoy the ship while waiting instead of feeling stuck. But something interesting happens after the first couple days of a cruise. During the first 2 days, everything feels crowded. Buffets are busy, elevators fill quickly, pool decks feel packed. But after day 2, something changes. Passengers spread out into different routines. Some go to shows, some head to the spa, others leave the ship during port days. Suddenly, the ship feels calmer. Experienced cruisers know this pattern, which is why they don't rush to do everything immediately. They let the crowds settle naturally. But where your cabin is located can still make a big difference in comfort. Cabins near elevators are louder. Cabins close to elevators look convenient when booking, and they are during the day. But elevators are natural gathering points. Passengers wait there, talk there, and often return late from shows or bars. That means hallway noise can be louder in those areas. Light sleepers sometimes notice this at night. Experienced cruisers often choose cabins a few doors farther down the hallway. It's still convenient, but usually quieter. And that leads to another important cabin decision many passengers overlook. Mid-ship cabins feel more stable. Ships move differently depending on where you stand. Cabins at the very front or back can feel more motion when seas get rough, but the middle of the ship moves less. That's why passengers sensitive to motion often choose mid-ship cabins. It doesn't eliminate movement completely, but it can make a noticeable difference. Experienced cruisers have used this trick for years. But where you eat dinner can matter almost as much as where you sleep. Early dining times fill first. Cruise ships usually offer two main dining times, early seating and late seating. Most families prefer early dinner because it leaves the evening free for shows and activities. Because of that, early dining often sells out quickly. Passengers who wait too long to select dining times sometimes end up on waiting lists. Experienced cruisers choose their dining preference as soon as booking opens. Planning early avoids disappointment later. And speaking of crowds, there's one place on the ship where timing matters more than anywhere else. Think about the last time you waited for an elevator in a busy hotel. Now imagine that same situation with 5,000 passengers. Cruise ships have elevators everywhere, yet some still feel slow. But the next secret explains why. 34. Elevators become slow after shows. When a theater show ends, hundreds of passengers leave at the same time. Most of them head straight for the elevators. That creates a sudden traffic spike. Experienced cruisers often use the stairs for just a few decks during these moments. It's usually faster than waiting for the next available elevator, and ships are large enough that this trick can save several minutes. But elevators aren't the only place where timing changes everything. 33. Pool chairs disappear early. On sea days, pool chairs become one of the most competitive spots on the ship. Passengers often wake up early to claim them. By mid-morning, many chairs are already taken. Some cruise lines even have rules against reserving chairs for long periods. Experienced cruisers know the quiet trick. They visit the pool earlier in the morning or later in the afternoon. Those times often feel much calmer, but sea days also affect something else passengers don't expect. 32. Specialty restaurants sell out fast. Cruise ships usually offer specialty dining restaurants that require reservations. Steakhouses, sushi bars, Italian restaurants, and chef's tables are popular options, but space is limited. Many passengers wait until mid-cruise to book a reservation. By then, the best times are often gone. Experienced cruisers reserve specialty dining before sailing or on the first day. Planning early guarantees better choices, but when the ship reaches a port, the atmosphere changes again. 31. Port days make ships quieter. When the ship docks, thousands of passengers leave for excursions. That creates one of the quietest moments on board. Restaurants become calmer. Pools feel empty. Spas sometimes offer discounts. Experienced cruisers occasionally stay on board during certain ports just to enjoy the peaceful atmosphere. It's one of the easiest ways to experience the ship without crowds, but leaving the ship can sometimes create its own surprises. 30. The first passengers off often wait longest. When a ship arrives at port, many passengers try to leave immediately, but that creates large lines. Security checks, gangways, and transportation systems all get busy. Experienced cruisers sometimes wait 20 or 30 minutes. By then, the first wave of passengers is already cleared. That simple delay can make leaving the ship much smoother. But once you step into the port area, something interesting begins to happen. 29. Port shopping areas are designed for tourists. Most cruise ports guide passengers through shopping areas first. These zones are filled with jewelry stores, souvenir shops, and duty-free items. They're designed specifically for cruise visitors. Prices aren't always bad, but they're often higher than local markets deeper in town. Experienced cruisers explore beyond the first shopping streets before buying souvenirs, because sometimes the best experiences are a little farther away. And that leads to another important planning detail. 28. Excursions often sell out before sailing.
Popular excursions sometimes sell out before the ship even departs, especially tours with limited spots like snorkeling trips or small group experiences. Passengers who wait until they board the ship may find their preferred tour already full.
Experienced cruisers book important excursions weeks before sailing. Planning ahead protects your options, but timing matters again when returning to the ship. 27. Returning late creates long lines. When port day ends, many passengers return to the ship around the same time. That creates security lines near the gangway. Passengers who return slightly earlier often avoid those lines. Experienced cruisers keep an eye on the time and return just before the rush. It's a small trick that keeps the end of the day relaxed. But here's something interesting. Not everyone even leaves the ship in port. 26. Some cruisers stay on board during ports. While most passengers explore the port, some choose to stay on board. This creates one of the most peaceful times on the ship. Pools feel quiet, restaurants have open seating, spas sometimes offer promotions. Experienced cruisers occasionally plan ship days during port stops. It's a completely different cruise experience. And speaking of smart cruise treks, there's something many passengers overlook inside the cruise app. 25. Cruise apps hide useful tools. Most passengers download the cruise app only to check the daily schedule, but cruise apps usually do much more than that. They often show restaurant wait times, allow messaging between passengers, and display deck maps to help you navigate the ship. Some apps even let you order drinks or make reservations directly. Experienced cruisers explore the app fully on the first day, because once the ship gets busy, knowing how to use the app can save time. And the next secret is something many passengers notice near the end of their cruise. 24. Future cruise booking bonuses. Many cruise ships have a future cruise desk on board. Passengers can place a small deposit toward a future sailing. The benefit is that cruise lines often offer extra onboard credit or special perks when bookings are made during the cruise. You don't have to choose a specific trip immediately. The deposit usually stays valid for a limited time. Experienced cruisers sometimes use this option to lock in bonuses for a future vacation. But here's something else that can quietly save money during the trip itself. 23. Laundry discounts appear mid-cruise. Laundry services on cruise ships are normally expensive, but on longer sailings, some ships offer special laundry bag promotions. Passengers can fill a bag of clothes for one reduced price. These offers are often announced quietly in the daily schedule. Experienced cruisers keep an eye out for them around the middle of the cruise, because that's when many passengers start needing clean clothes. But laundry isn't the only service where timing matters. 22. Guest services lines peak at night. Guest services handles everything from billing questions to cabin issues, but the lines there follow a predictable pattern. They're busiest late in the evening and on the final night of the cruise. That's when passengers review their onboard accounts. Experienced cruisers visit guest services earlier in the day when lines are shorter. It's a simple trick that avoids long waits. And speaking of things passengers check constantly, there's something interesting about Wi-Fi usage on board. 21. Wi-Fi speeds change during the day. Cruise ship internet works through satellite connections. That means bandwidth is shared by thousands of passengers. When everyone goes online at the same time, usually in the evening, speeds slow down. But during early mornings or port days, the connection often feels faster. Experienced cruisers schedule large downloads or uploads during quieter hours because timing makes a big difference. Now here's something that surprises many first-time cruisers. Cruise ships look like floating cities, but unlike cities, they move. That means sometimes plans change, even when everything seems perfectly scheduled, and the next few secrets explain why. 20. Cruise itineraries sometimes change. Cruise itineraries look fixed when you book them, but in reality, they're always subject to change.
Weather conditions, port congestion, or technical issues can force the captain to adjust the route. Safety always comes first. Most experienced cruisers understand this and treat every itinerary as flexible. Sometimes those changes even lead to unexpected destinations. And the next secret involves a port situation many passengers experience. 19. Tender ports take longer. Some ports don't have docks large enough for cruise ships. Instead, smaller boats called tenders transport passengers to shore. The process works well, but takes time. Lines form, boats fill, and trips run back and forth between ship and port. Passengers who expect to step directly onto land are often surprised. Experienced cruisers simply plan extra time when visiting tender ports, because patience makes the process smoother. But once back on board at night, the atmosphere changes again. 18. Casinos get busier late at night. Cruise casinos often feel quiet during the day, but after dinner and shows, the energy changes. Many passengers head there for entertainment before bedtime. That's when casinos become busiest. Experienced cruisers who prefer quieter gaming often visit earlier in the evening, because the atmosphere can feel very different depending on the time. But another popular activity on cruise ships also fills quickly. 17. Theater shows fill early. Cruise ships offer large theater productions every night, but seating is usually first come, first served, unless reservations are required. Passengers who arrive just before the show sometimes struggle to find seats. Experienced cruisers arrive 15 to 20 minutes early. That small buffer almost always guarantees better seating. But the next secret involves one of the most competitive spots anywhere on the ship. 16. Deck chairs disappear fast. On sunny sea days, deck chairs become valuable real estate. Passengers often claim chairs early in the morning. Some cruise lines try to prevent long chair reservations, but it still happens. Experienced cruisers use a simple strategy. They visit the pool either early morning or late afternoon when chairs free up again. Those quieter times often feel much more relaxing. But now we're getting into the part of cruising where many passengers make expensive mistakes. Before we continue, quick question. How many cruises have you taken? First time or several already? Let me know in the comments. And if you're enjoying these cruise secrets, make sure you're subscribed. We share travel strategies and cruise tips every week that help you avoid the mistakes most passengers only discover the hard way. Now, the next secrets are some of the biggest money mistakes passengers make at sea. 15. Drink packages aren't always a deal. Drink packages sound great when you're planning a cruise. Unlimited cocktails, sodas, coffees, and bottled water. But here's the catch. To truly get your money's worth, many passengers would need to drink several beverages every single day. And that's harder than it sounds once port days and excursions take up half the day. Experienced cruisers often calculate the cost before buying. Sometimes paying per drink actually costs less. And the next cruise expense surprises even more people. 14. Spa services cost far more on board. Cruise ship spas look beautiful, but treatments on board are usually much more expensive than similar services on land. Massages, facials, and beauty treatments can cost significantly more. Add service charges, and the price climbs even higher. Experienced cruisers sometimes visit the spa during port days, when special promotions occasionally appear, because fewer passengers stay on board then. But there's one onboard service many passengers hope they never need. 13. Ship medical visits can be expensive. Cruise ships have medical centers staffed by trained professionals, but medical visits on board are not included in your cruise fare. Consultations, medications, and treatments can cost hundreds of dollars depending on the situation. That's why many experienced cruisers purchase travel insurance before sailing. Insurance can help cover unexpected medical costs or emergencies at sea, because healthcare on the ocean works differently than on land. And that leads to another important detail many passengers overlook. Number 12. Travel insurance matters more at sea. When you're on a cruise ship, the nearest hospital might be hundreds of miles away. Serious emergencies sometimes require medical evacuation by helicopter or specialized transport. Those services can be extremely expensive. Travel insurance helps protect against those rare situations. Many experienced cruisers consider it an essential part of trip planning. But safety and health aren't the only things hidden in cruise policies. Number 11. Cruise contracts allow itinerary changes. When booking a cruise, passengers agree to a contract most people never fully read. Inside that agreement are clauses allowing the cruise line to change itineraries if necessary. Weather, port congestion, and operational needs can all affect schedules. That's why experienced cruisers treat the itinerary as a plan, not a guarantee. Flexibility is simply part of cruising. But now we're moving into some of the most surprising cruise realities passengers notice during the trip itself. Think about the first night of a cruise. The ship leaves port, the ocean opens up around you. And suddenly you realize this floating city never actually stops moving. And the next secrets explain how that movement affects the experience on board. 10. Some cabins vibrate slightly. In certain areas of the ship, especially near the rear, passengers may notice gentle vibration. It usually comes from the ship's propulsion systems working below deck. Most passengers barely notice it after the first night, but light sleepers sometimes prefer cabins farther from the engines. Experienced cruisers often research cabin locations before booking because small details like this can change comfort levels. But vibration isn't the only surprise during the evening. 9. Late-night pizza becomes the busiest spot. Cruise ships often have a pizza counter open late into the night. After shows, bars, and evening entertainment end, passengers head there for a quick snack. Suddenly, the small pizza station becomes one of the busiest places on the ship. Experienced cruisers sometimes grab late-night food slightly earlier to avoid the rush, because even simple things follow crowd patterns on board. But something else many passengers wait for happens earlier in the day. 8. Luggage sometimes arrives hours later. When you board the ship, porters take your large suitcases. Those bags go through screening before being delivered to cabins. Depending on timing, luggage may arrive several hours later, sometimes near dinner. Experienced cruisers pack essentials in a carry-on bag for the first afternoon. Swimwear, medications, chargers, and valuables stay with them. That way the vacation begins immediately. But boarding time itself can also change the experience. 7. Boarding later can be easier. Many passengers try to board the ship as early as possible, but that first wave often experiences the longest lines. Security checks, check-in desks, and gangways all get crowded. Passengers arriving slightly later sometimes walk straight through with minimal waiting. Experienced cruisers often choose midday boarding times because the initial rush has already passed. But the feeling on board changes again after a few days. 6. Ships feel calmer after day 3. By the third day of most cruises, routines settle. Passengers learn the ship layout. Crowds spread across different activities, and the atmosphere becomes noticeably calmer. Experienced cruisers know this is when the trip often feels most relaxing. The excitement of embarkation fades, replaced by a comfortable rhythm. But now we're approaching the final secrets, and these affect almost every passenger. Quick pause before the final 5. If you're enjoying these cruise secrets, make sure you're subscribed. We break down cruise tricks, travel mistakes, and insider tips every week. And the last 5 secrets are things many passengers notice on every single cruise. 5. The first sea day is always busy. The first full sea day usually becomes the busiest day on the ship. Passengers explore everything at once. Pools, restaurants, shops, casinos, and activities all fill quickly. Experienced cruisers sometimes relax and observe on that first sea day because the ship becomes calmer later in the cruise. But there's another moment when crowds suddenly appear again. 4. Sales events create urgency.
Cruise ships frequently hold shopping promotions during sea days, limited time sales, last chance offers, special event pricing. These events create excitement and urgency. Experienced cruisers take their time before making purchases because another sale often appears later. But one area of the ship experiences competition every single morning. 3. The best pool chairs disappear early. On sunny sea days, the best pool chairs fill quickly. Passengers wake early to claim them. Some cruise lines limit long chair reservations, but the rush still happens. Experienced cruisers either arrive early or visit the pool later in the afternoon when chairs open up again. Timing makes all the difference. But now we reach one of the most important embarkation tips. 2. Your carry-on bag matters more than you think. Because luggage delivery can take hours, your carry-on bag becomes essential. Experienced cruisers always pack documents, medications, swimwear, chargers, and valuables. That way, the first afternoon on board stays stress-free. It's one of the simplest cruise tricks, yet many first-time passengers forget it. And now we reach the final secret. 1. The first and last sea days of a cruise usually feel the most crowded. That's when most passengers explore shops, book activities, and attend events. Spa promotions appear. Photo sessions increase. Shopping events fill the schedule. Experienced cruisers often plan their activities strategically around those busy days, because once you understand the ship's rhythm, navigating crowds becomes much easier, and suddenly the entire cruise experience feels smoother. And those are 50 cruise secrets most passengers only discover after making mistakes. Cruising is still one of the best ways to travel, but understanding how things really work helps you avoid stress, save money, and enjoy the experience much more. If one of these secrets surprised you, tell me in the comments. And if you want more cruise travel tips, check out the next video on your screen.